Hey guys, it's Scott here. I want to share with you today what I call the wealth equation. And this is really how ordinary people, not the Mark Zuckerbergs and these types of people, I'm talking about everyday people that just have jobs, that want to create wealth, that want to get financially free. The wealth equation will help anyone to do that. So the wealth equation, really the final outcome of the wealth equation is for you to have a passive income. Now, the way that you get a passive income, so passive income is when you're getting money that's getting paid to you, but you're not working for it, you're not doing anything for it. The passive income keeps coming to you every week, every month, every year for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. And that passive income keeps coming in and it supports your lifestyle. It pays for your housing, your clothing, your food, your transportation, your entertainment. It provides you with a lifestyle and it gives you complete financial independence. You're now no longer reliant on a job. You're now no longer reliant on trading your time or your skill for money. Money's coming to you. It's like free money that keeps coming in. Now, passive income, one of the ways to get it is you could have properties. Say, for example, you've got 3 properties, debt-free properties. The debt is totally paid off. If each property is paying you $500 a week rent and it's debt-free, you've got a few small expenses, but at a higher level, these 3 properties here, if they were debt-free, they would pay you a passive income of $1,500 a week. That $1,500 a week then supports your lifestyle. You can live off of that. That's a passive income. You want more income? Well, then you just need more properties and you need a higher amount of rent. And what will actually happen is your passive income will grow. And ultimately, this is what you want to do. You want to find a way to build assets to be able to pay you a passive income. So with passive income, this is how it works. For passive income to work, you need a lump sum amount. And then that lump sum amount will earn you a return in cash. It'll pay you the cash, but you've first got to build up this lump sum. So you've got your properties and you want to get them debt free. I'm going to show you how to get all your properties debt free a little bit later in the presentation. But here are the numbers. So if you've got $1 million worth of property, if your property portfolio is worth $1 million, it's debt free, you don't owe the bank any money, then you times it by, say, 5%, which is what we call a rental yield. So I'm getting a 5% return on my $1 million lump sum. This equates to $50,000, or in other words, it's $1,000 per week. So this much lump sum at 5% return gives me a passive income of $1,000 per week. If you want more passive income, you've just got to have a higher lump sum. So if you've got $2 million worth of debt-free property at 5%, this is $100,000 per year passive income, or roughly equivalent, $2,000 per week. If you've got $3 million at 5%, it's $150,000. So the higher the passive income you want, the bigger the lump sum, or the bigger the amount of debt-free property that you want. Now the issue now becomes, how do I get $1 million, $2 million, $3 million worth of debt-free property? Because of course, to get it debt-free, you've got to pay off the debt. It's not simply a matter of buying $3 million worth of property. I've got to get this property debt-free, and I'm going to show you now how to get your property debt-free, even if you're only earning a very average income. So how do you get your property portfolio debt-free? Well, saving money or paying money down on the debt simply won't work. So will saving work? Let's say, for example, you're on about $100,000 or $150,000 as a single, or even as a couple or a family. After all your expenses, would you agree that it would be hard to save even $10,000 cash after you've paid your superannuation, you've paid your tax bill, which could be 30 to 40% of your overall income. Then you've got your housing, your rent, you may have a mortgage, already have one property, you've got to pay that. Maybe there's kids, there's private schools, so there's a lot of places where your money has to go. So saving $10,000 a year is actually quite a good thing. If you save $10,000 a year over 10 years, now I've only saved $100,000 over 10 years. Can I ask you, if we flip back in the chart, remember, for a passive income of just $1,000 a week, we needed a lump sum of $1 million. So even in this scenario, I've only got $100,000 after 10 years. After 20 years, I've only got $200,000. After 30 years, I've only got $300,000. So as you can see, it can be very hard, if not impossible, unless you're a highly paid professional. Maybe you're a CEO, someone really high up in a corporate company. Maybe you're a doctor or you're a GP. Then it can be very, very hard to save anything like $1 million or $2 million over a working career. So what do we do? Well, we need to put into place an investment strategy that takes advantage of these two tools, compounding and leverage. And I'm going to show you how compounding and leverage can take an ordinary income earner and turn them into a financially free person with a powerful passive income for the rest of their lives. Let me show you how that works now. So let's now take a look at the two powerful tools that anyone can use to get financial freedom, even if you're only an average income earner. Now those things are leverage and compounding. Let's first take a look at the power of compounding. So let's say, for example, I've got $50,000 cash and I invest this $50,000 cash at an annual investment rate of 7.2%. If you do the math on that, you will find that the $50,000 at year 10 will double in value to $100,000. And it's because of this growth rate. Now, if I then hold it for another 10 years to year 20, it doubles again to 200K. So at year 10, your 50K doubles. At year 20, your 50K quadruples. And when you do this over a 10, 20, 30 year lifetime, you can create significant amounts of wealth. But how do we actually fast track it? Because as you can see, $50,000, that becomes $200,000. That still is not close to the $1 million that we need just to have a $1,000 a week passive income. And we're also assuming that we're going to get the 7.2% growth rate. So where can we put our money? Where is our money going to get the 7.2% growth rate? Well, it just so happens that the average annual capital growth rate of Australian property in the last 25 years is actually 6.8% nationally across the whole country. And if you refine that down, and if you just look at Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, East Coast capital cities, the average growth rate for those cities is between 7.2 and 7.7%. So there are markets, there is an asset class, property, and there are locations, Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, that will give you this growth rate on your money. But again, even if we get this growth rate, our 50,000 only becomes 100 at year 10, it only becomes 200 at year 20. So how can we amplify the result? The way we amplify the result is we use a principle that the rich have used, the banks use it today, everyone that's making big money uses this principle. It's called the principle of leverage. And let me show you how it works in property. So you take your 50,000 here, you utilize your 50,000 to go into the property market, but you're able to get a $450,000 loan from the bank when you put down a $50,000 deposit. Now there's some other expenses, some stamp duties and things like this, but just to illustrate how this works, I want to just show you in a basic way. So altogether, the property is worth 500K. Now, if this 500K is in the property market, growing at 7.2% growth rate, how much will it be at year 10? It will be worth, it'll double, it'll be worth 1 million. Now, if we let it grow again another 10 years at 7.2%, how much will the $1 million property be worth? It will be worth $2 million. See the difference here. 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 50,000, $450,000 loan, $500,000 invested now, but I've only got $50,000 of my own money in the deal. $450,000 is other people's money. So I've got $500,000 growing, 1 million, 2 million. This is the secret to becoming debt free This is the secret to creating a portfolio of property which is debt-free, paying you a passive income to give you the freedom and the lifestyle that you want. This is how it works. Now I know what the next question will be. Scott, I've got some debt here. Isn't that risky? Can I afford to hold the properties? What is my cash flow position on the specific property? So I'm going to show you how the cash flow works now. So I've just shown you how you can hold a property for 10 or 20 years and you can leverage your $50,000 to create massive amounts of wealth. But the question then becomes, can I afford to hold the property during that time? Will the property be draining money away from me? Or is it possible for the property to put cash into my pocket while I actually hold the property? So let's actually take a look at that. So here's property cash flow. I'm using a property to the value of about $500,000. So we've got a $50,000 deposit in this property. Now the income on the property, I've assumed a 5% rental yield, which is $26,000 of rent for the year. Now I've got an interest only loan. I don't attempt to pay down the debt because that'll increase my holding costs and it'll limit my cash flow. It'll limit me to the number of properties that I can buy. And I'll show you a little bit later why it's important you buy multiple properties. One won't do it. Buying one home, living in it and paying it off won't get you financially free. You're going to need multiple properties. We'll go into that a little bit later. But I've got 5% here yield, $26,000 rent. I've got a $450,000 loan and I'm getting an interest charge on it of 3.5%. So my interest charge is $15,750. Now I've got some other expenses. I've got council rates, I've got water rates, I've got property management. Altogether, my expenses are $19,000. This means that the difference between this and this is $6,950. That is a positive cash flow property. It's positive because of the interest rate here, the fact that I'm on an interest only loan, and also because I'm getting a very good yield on the property, 5%. I can tell you from my 16 properties, many of my properties fit this exact situation and are producing this type of cash flow for me. And to put it in perspective, this is like about an additional $133 of positive cash flow every single week that's coming into my pocket. So not only is the property doubling in 10 years, doubling in 20 years, every week the property is paying me cash flow, which allows me to actually save more money for more deposits, to get more property. Also, the banks like me because the property is creating additional income for me, which enhances my borrowing capacity. Okay, so I've shown you now how to actually use compounding and leverage to create wealth. I've also shown you the holding costs on a property and how it can be positive cash flow. Now I want to show you how you can use multiple properties to get debt-free really fast. Remember, we can't save our way to this position. We can only invest our way to this position. Now, take a look at this. I've got two properties that I pick up in year one. I picked them up for $500,000 each, and I've got $50,000 cash in each of these deals. And now, if I get a capital growth rate of 7.2%, remember, what will happen to the asset in 10 years? The asset will double to 1 million. Now, I've been on an interest-only loan, so the debt remains the same at year 10. I've still got $500,000 of debt. It's actually $450,000 of debt if I've got $50,000 cash in here. But let's just, to make the math easy, we've still got $500,000 of debt. And because the value of the property is 1 million, I've got $500,000 of equity. Now, there are a few things, capital gains tax and a few other things that we need to factor, but just to illustrate the principle, let me show you how this works. I've now got two properties. Property one has created 500K of equity. Property two has created 500K of equity. How can I utilize this situation to get debt-free property? How do I get debt-free? So what I need to do is I can sell property two, take my 500K profit, and I can use that to wipe away the debt on property one. I've now got one property valued at $1 million. So I've got one property valued at $1 million, completely debt-free. And this is how you're able to create a debt-free property portfolio in 10 to 15 years. But there are two really important tools that you need to build this portfolio, and there's one very important consideration that you've got to consider when setting this whole thing up and building it. I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so let's show you those really important things in building out this portfolio. The first important thing, what you need to get your first property, is you need to actually have a deposit. You need cash. You need some equity that's sitting in another property, maybe a loan from parents, a friend, a family, maybe even a personal loan. There are a lot of ways to get in, but ideally you need a cash deposit that you have saved yourself that you can put down on the property. The second thing that you need is you need borrowing capacity. So to loan money from the bank, you've got to be earning enough income and you've got to have a clean credit record so that you can actually get money from the bank. Now here's the thing, when you start buying multiple properties, the banks don't want to loan you more money than say 2 or 3 or 4 properties. And this is why most investors get stuck at property 1, property 2, or property 3. Very few investors make it past property 3 because they don't have a strategy to keep creating the deposits, to keep buying multiple properties. They also don't know the fundamental principles to enhance and increase their borrowing capacity, which is a very limited resource because it's based upon your income today. So we've got to find ways to increase your borrowing capacity so that you can actually build out your portfolio. And remembering, for every property that you want debt-free, you need another property that is going to grow with it so that you can sell it to pay the debt down on property 1. So these are the two most important things. Now, the most important consideration during the growth and building of your property portfolio is cash flow. This is where negative gearing is really not a good thing. This is where negative cash flow is something that you absolutely have to avoid. Negative cash flow will limit your borrowing capacity. It won't give you any money for more deposits. So you've got to stay positive cash flow. If you think back to the example that I showed you, we were positive cash flow on that property more than $100 per week. So you've got to make sure that you identify properties that are positive in cash flow, not only so that you can have cash flow coming in for more deposits, but also that you continue to enhance your borrowing capacity so that the banks will loan you more money than the income that you are currently on. Okay, so here you have it. Now let me actually show you and summarize for you the Freedom Property Investors Wealth Creation Equation. This equation, when implemented into your life, will actually get you financially free over a period of time. So let me actually show you here. Passive income equals the value of the properties that you have times the amount of time that you have the properties invested times the capital growth rate that you have plus the cash flow on the overall portfolio. When you line up each of these components in the equation, then you will be able to achieve your passive income goal. Every investor wants to be able to buy and invest in as many properties as possible by enhancing the amount of borrowing capacity that they have and enhancing their ability to create deposits for additional properties, either through equity or through cash. So the more properties that you have in your portfolio, the more wealth you're going to create. We times the value of that portfolio by the number of years that we have invested. If we're only invested for 3 years, we don't have a very great outcome. If we invest for 10 years, we have the potential to double the value of the portfolio. If we invest for 20 years, we have the potential to quadruple the value of the property. The most powerful element in this whole equation is time. Time is the most powerful factor because over time you can see that your results keep doubling every 10 years. So you want to be able to get this one right. If you've been thinking about investing and you're on a journey, you want that journey to be a 1-month journey. You can shorten the journey, find experts, find professionals, find a mentor that you trust, choose someone that has results, that's worked with a lot of people, that actually knows the truth about property and has a strong fundamental understanding of actually this equation and how it works. So time is very important. Times the capital growth rate. So we only get a doubling if we get 7.2%. What if we only get 3% or 5%? What if we were able to get 8%? So you want to be able to work with professionals that, based on research, they understand where is the highest probability for you to be able to get at least 7.2%. After all, that's only the average. It's not a super great result. It's just an average result. So utilizing an expert or through your own education over a number of years, you want to be able to target property with at least 7.2%, so you have that doubling effect. And of course, we need to add in here your cash flow position, because the stronger the cash flow position, it's a feedback loop that feeds back into the number of properties that you have. This is a very powerful formula. I want you to commit this to memory, and I'd love to offer you now the chance to sit down to have your very own personalized session with a Freedom Property Investors property expert, wealth strategist, to sit down and look at where are you now, what steps can you take to put this formula into your life and create the passive income that everyone, every family, every single person, not only do you need it, but you absolutely 100% deserve it. I hope that this information has been very powerful in your life, and I wish you all the success on your investment journey.